Author's Spotlight, unveiling the craft. Inspiring and engaging conversations here at Apex Media Global. Listen now.
A Superman fan ever since I've been a little boy, and I always believed in truth and justice and doing the right things, helping people whenever I could, just staying constant and honest. And so that inspired me to create my own superhero, Vultar.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Author Spotlight, brought to you by Apex Media Global. I'm your host, Monica, and I'm excited to be speaking with Vernon Lee, a talented writer from Virginia who is just living his dream of publishing his first superhero graphic novel, Vultar, The Ultimate Hero Lives. Drawing inspiration from his faith-based values and his love for Superman, he created Vultar, a regular guy who gained extraordinary powers from an alien race, and now he has to confront his fears and fight for justice. I can't wait to get lost in Vultar's story. So welcome to the show, Vernon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, Vernon, I know the creation aspect of a book is really not easy, especially when it comes to the characters and giving them complex thoughts, right? So what personal experience has inspired you to create Vultar, and how did that shape the character?
Well, as you said earlier in your intro, I was a Superman fan ever since I've been a little boy, and I always believed in truth and justice and doing the right things, helping people whenever I could, just staying constant and honest. And so that inspired me to create my own superhero, Vultar. And that led to the first novel, how he gets his powers from that alien race on the other side of a black hole that's about 800,000 light years away. And so that inspired me to just keep on. And then I kind of put some of my own personal life events into the storyline, but changed the names just a little bit. And that's how he was born.
Cool. So did you have any fears in real life that also bled into the story of Vultar?
Be honest, I'm not sure if I ever really had any fears about it. I think the fear was just starting to write the book if I could do it. And I just buckled down and just started thinking, and try to ad lib adventures in my life and true life events that I've seen happen around the world, and just tried to incorporate them into my storyline. And so far, he's done pretty good. I think it's a pretty good read.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. And earlier you mentioned that you're very big on integrity and honesty and fighting for the truth. How does that reflect or manifest in Voltar's decision-making process?
Well, as someone like him has extreme superpowers and strength and abilities, he has to think about his situation before he attacks the problem. So he doesn't overreact. He has to stay calm and confident in his decisions to make sure everyone around is safe while he takes care of the evil situation or the regular lifestyle of interfering with problems that go on in the world.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson that also children reading Vultar can take home, to stay calm in all situations, right? So how
Yes,
do
ma'am.
you think that Vultar's challenges in the story can be a lesson for children reading the novel?
Well, first of all, you need to always realize that anyone can be a superhero, whether it's in a fictional novel or in real life. You just have to be strong-willed, strong-minded, make your own choices in life. Don't let no one interfere with your decisions, and believe in what you believe and share it with others, and continue doing a good deed every day, and just go forward.
1,000%. I agree with that. And I think it's really important for kids to also realize their self-autonomy and independence at such a young
Yes.
age, and to
Yes,
face
ma'am.
their fears.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any pivotal moments in your life or in your career that also reflects or manifests in Voltaire's character?
Well, when I used to years ago, I used to dress up as Superman and visit children in hospitals and walk the streets here where I live, and got mistaken one time of actually flying to the hospital because a lady said she seen me standing at the corner, and she looked away for a moment and then she turned back quickly and I was suddenly gone. And she said she suddenly looked up in the air and see if I took off. And I think it's a good thing to share those things with children in hospitals. It brought a lot of cheerful to their events, and I've done Christmas parades and got a lot of cheers, and I enjoyed doing it a whole lot. Done it for about 2 years, I think it was, on and off, and I really enjoyed it a whole lot.
That's awesome. I don't think a lot of people do that. Can you can you tell me more about your love for Superman and why is it so close to your heart that it made you publish your first superhero graphic novel?
Well, as a young kid, I always admired his ability for super strength, flying ability, his invulnerability to fight injustice wherever it would be here on Earth or out in the universe somewhere on another planet to help an alien race. Uh, just good morals, good values. Stood up tall. Let people see he stood for something and didn't give in to the crowd, and just made sure everything was right with him, and just took care of business and enforced the law and helped people. Made him feel good, and it always made me feel good.
Yeah, that's so cool. So can you tell me about, I mentioned earlier that you draw a lot of inspiration from Superman, but I'm sure that Vultar is his own unique character. Can you
Mm-hmm.
tell me what's the difference between the two?
Okay, okay. Well, Voltar and Superman are similar, but he was given his powers by orb that the alien race had, that they sent it through the black hole, and it found him on Earth. And when it struck him, it was like a bolt of lightning that struck him, that energized his body, and it teleported him back to their spaceship on the other side of that black hole, where they trained him for 100 years how to cope with his superpowers, and he got stronger over time. And and he can also draw his powers from a yellow sun, but he can also draw his powers from different suns out inside space. So if he would fly across the path of an orange sun, he don't have to worry about being weakened by the solar radiation. He just constantly absorbs energy to maintain his power and strength and full ability.
What do you think is the true mark of a superhero, and how does Volter represent that?
Well, if I can quote it right, that's on the video that I made several years ago. You have to learn to face your fears and overcome them, even though you might be afraid. But a true superhero will overcome them and still fight and make sure they stand for justice.
I think we're all superheroes in our own ways, aren't we? Whenever
Yes,
we
ma'am.
face our fears, whether it's small or massive, we can see ourselves in Volter.
Yes, ma'am.
But when you were writing your graphic novel, what inspiration did you have in mind? What was your end goal? Like when you were envisioning your future readers, what did you want them to feel when they were reading?
That they could express themselves in the book when they read it, because it's written in a way to where you can experience each character's emotions. You can experience Voltar's emotions when he's helping people, when he's fighting crime, when he's saving a young woman that he's in love with in the novel, and helping the innocent, helping a lady get to the hospital. She's in a position where she's giving birth. He has to take her to the hospital. And there's similar things like it happen in real life, that you're just there, regardless of who you are. You just help them and make sure they're safe. And that's always inspired me to always try to do those things, even now for myself, to be there for people whenever I can.
I think I have a better grasp of who Volter is, but I want to get to know you, Vernon.
Okay.
Did you have any fears, and how did you overcome that and made it your triumph as an individual or as an author?
Well, writing my first book was scary because I didn't know if I could really do it or not. But I had a friend. She says, "Well, you can do it. You got a good imagination." So I just started thinking about who I wanted to represent, and it took me several while. It took me a couple of weeks to find the name that fit my character, and I discussed it with my mom a few times what to how the character's name sounded. And she finally agreed that that name sounded good, sounded strong. So I went with that, and it's just basically, we just do everything best you can to handle situations and be there for people. And that's how I've always tried to be, as friendly, helpful as much as I can be. And we all make mistakes, and even Vultar can possibly make a mistake because even though he has superpowers, he can make a decision. It might inflict problems, but he has to try not to do that. Just like in everyday life, you have to do your best to have those things, fixed. And if you make a mistake, just learn from it and move on and try to do better the next time.
Yeah, you mentioned that Volter can also make mistakes, and it's good to have a superhero who shows vulnerability and relatability,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Can you elaborate or give me like a situation that Volter was going through that he made a mistake, but he powered through like a true superhero?
Well, I try to be pretty positive in my writing, so I'm not sure. I could try to think of some areas where he helped someone and they didn't really appreciate it too much because he interfered, but was actually the monster he was going up to trying to save a lady, and she kind of didn't like him being in the way. But I be honest, I can't really remember my whole story too much because I've read it enough, but being nervous a little bit here, kind of makes the brain kind of go. But I'm trying to remember best things I can. But he has just overcome your fears, in everyday life. Sit back, think about it, and try to make a better decision. So you go forward and do better and better each time.
Yes, sir. I think the watchers, our viewers can read for themselves and just get lost in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, Vernon, I was going through your website and you said that your biggest dream was to publish your own graphic novel. And now that you've done it, what's next for you?
Well, what's next is I've also published a second book called Vultar Meets the Shadow Creature. It was published back in 2019, and so it's been out several years now. Um, I can show you the cover. It's right behind me there if you would like to see it. And also got a picture of my other book too. If somebody like to see it too. But it's it's just crazy how things come together, and it's worked out pretty good. I was, scared about if it's going to do good or not, but I'm proud of it. It's a gift that I didn't know I could do, and I'm thankful. And I'm always been pretty positive. I do my best to share it whenever I can, and for people if they're interested in purchasing a copy or going to the website. And also in the website there is a that the viewers can find out for themselves that there's a big event going on for him, and so it's going good as we speak now. So that's as far as I can really say about that.
All right. Well, if you're comfortable, if you want, I would love to see probably the favorite parts of your book if you want to show it to us.
Well, it's hold on, let me see. This is
Just a
the
little sneak peek.
second book that I made that I published back in 2019. Vultar Meets the Shadow Creature, and this is the first book that I published. Vultar, the Ultimate Hero Lives. That is the one that is being uh, developed into a movie as we speak.
Wow.
But that's as far as I can really go with that. But if viewers want to go to VernonLee.com, they can find out pretty much where that is.
It's being developed into a movie. Do you want to tell me about the process and how did you feel when you found out?
Well, I was shocked because I was somebody gave me a phone call and I wasn't sure who it was, so I ended up calling, And so we ended up talking for a little while and ended up making a video that's on the website, vernonlee.com, which all the viewers can see. And that tells a little bit more about the character, and it's even got a picture of my city down in the video where he swoops down through the city and comes flying back out toward the space to destroy a meteorite. And it's going pretty good. It's been a little while. It's been a little slow because back about a year or so they had that writer strike, so that kind
Right.
of slowed it down. So, but right now it's peaking pretty good. It's on a steady flow, but hopefully this video and interview will help produce it and make it get a little bit more popular in my books as well.
I'm excited too. That's great news. Congratulations on that. That's
Thank you very much.
beyond, yeah. Do you have a set date on when you want it to go live? When can we watch the movie?
Uh, I don't know that yet. It's still in the process of getting everything going and getting the go ahead to get it started. So it's still in the process of getting on at the beginning. It isn't quite being filmed as we speak, but it's in that area where hopefully we'll get the okay here pretty soon, and then it'll be starting. Hopefully sometime next year is would be nice, but that's up to them how long things take sometimes, but hopefully it'll be next year.
That should be so exciting. I
Mhm.
mean, I know the whole process can take a while to
Yes.
gain momentum,
Yes, ma'am.
but I'm excited. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
have another interview when the movie comes out and
That
we'll
would be
see how
great.
different things can be,
I'd be more,
right?
I'd be very honored to be back again.
It would be my pleasure. But yeah, and we'll look back at this interview and see how different things are.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
so now that you're in the developing process of the movie, is it just gonna be a complete like carbon copy of the graphic novel, or are you gonna have like some changes?
Well, as far as I know, it's going to be like the book, but everything can always be adjusted, to fit the
Hmm.
screen. Have to, how they edited things to make sure things fit. They might change the storyline just a little bit, but hopefully I'll be a part of that so I can give my viewpoints on it too to make sure everything is done right.
Yeah, I mean you have to, right? You're
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
be very involved in the process. Now, Vernon, aside from your website, can we find your books or any updates about the movie anywhere?
Well, the books can be purchased at authorhouse.com, my publisher. Just punch in the name Vernon Lee, and that'll take you right to the books. But the website that only is mentioned the situation is the movie situation is vernonlee.com. That's as far as I got it right now. But like I said, it shows the book intro inside that just below all the books, so you can see the video. If you went to the website, you've probably seen the introduction video of Vultar video about the book. So that's about as far as it is right now.
Got it. Vernon, I'm really curious. Are you gonna have books in different genres, or are you just gonna continue Volter's story?
I don't know. I mean, I've thought about writing a third one, but and make it a different adventure. But I don't know. It takes a lot of thinking to get started. I've got something written down already in one of in my laptop, so I just got to just decide whether to jump into it again or not, and try to visualize what I can do. And so hopefully, maybe I can. If not, I'll just stay with Voltar's adventures.
Yeah, well, I think Volter has a lot of potential, and you can always make his story richer,
Yes, ma'am.
maybe present more challenges. I'm just so excited to dive into it and much more excited for the movie. So I will be keeping an eye out on your website. And
Thank you.
yeah, so Vernon, I have a segment in this show where I ask, what would you or what would your character do in certain situations? So for this segment, I'm calling it What Would Volter Do? And I have three scenarios, and you can tell me how would Volter, react, or how would Volter overcome the situation. All right.
I'll
So,
do my best.
well, you know him best. So you're gonna do your best. So for the first scenario, let's imagine that Vultar is in this, community festival, and there are a group of kids bullying a younger kid. And Vultar witnesses that, but he doesn't want to be too harsh. He wants to teach them a lesson, but he wants to be compassionate. How do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
think Vultar would break up the bullying and also teach a lesson?
Well, first of all, probably Voltaire would be hovering above the children, seeing what's going on as he slowly lowers himself in between them, and says, let's calm down here. Let's see what's going on, and look at each child. Say, let's sit back a little bit, and let's just let me tell me what's going on. You first get the other little child to express what they're going through, and then talk to the other one. Why is he bullying this child here? And then try to figure out the best way to handle it. Not because I was bullied one time, years ago at high school. You have to learn to deal with it, in real life. But it's best to come out with good situations and have the two kids talk it over, and then if everything can go, have them shake hands, because sometimes bullies can be friends with the people they're bullying, over time. That's what happened to me growing up, and you become good friends with the person just bullying you. But that's how I think Voltaire should handle it. Just sit back, talk, make it fun, and let kids know that they each have a responsibility to respect each other and learn to accept each other's differences, and trust each other, and become good friends. And even though you might have disagreements, that doesn't mean you bully. You discuss, and you still maintain your friends and play and have a good time.
That's such a refreshing way to look at that situation.
Yes, ma'am.
And that also reflects who you are as a person and who Volter is as a superhero. And maybe a superhero or not, I think this is a good lesson for teachers, parents to, have an insight on how they can deal with bullying, and
Yes, ma'am.
communication always triumphs. So thank you so much for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
So the second situation is, imagining Volter is encountering a different alien race, but they cannot communicate in words. But Volter can only see, colors, or can hear sounds, and that's the only way the aliens can communicate. What is a creative way Volter, how can he understand the alien race with just colors and sounds?
Well, that's a tough question, Monica.
Right, right, right.
Well, I was going to throw out there, since in my life I knew a little sign language. I was going to try to throw that out there, that Voltaire knows a little sign language, and maybe he could, hand gesture and make words, and help the aliens do. But I reckon the best way to handle that is get some type of color, and try to see which one represents what they need. Yes, for a certain color, no for another color, and anger for another color, who's upset, and just try to communicate by gestures, and facial expressions, things like that, till maybe hopefully the communication starts getting better, and you can eventually get better communication other than the roughness at the beginning.
That's a good one. I'm not gonna lie. I prepared the question, but I didn't even know how I would solve that problem. So that was a good one. That was a
Thank
good
you.
one. So the last scenario is, imagine Volter waking up one day and he lost all his powers. It all vanished. How can he adapt to this new challenge and live as a mortal? And what can he learn about heroism?
Well, if he woke up one day and didn't have his powers anymore, he would have to take his life experiences for the months or years that he had his powers, and still embrace them, because he learned how to cope with things, even with superpowers, that you can even cope with without superpowers. And just take one day at a time, spread his goodwill just like he has before, and let people know that they can trust each other and get to know each other. And there's always going to be differences, but you have to talk them over, and just pursue goodness and truth, and stay steady every day.
Thank you so much for answering all my questions,
You're
Vernon.
welcome. You're welcome,
It
Monica.
was it was very refreshing, especially for a strong male figure to emphasize the importance of communication, honesty, vulnerability, integrity. And I am so excited for more children or even adults to pick up your graphic
Oh,
novels,
yes. Yes.
learn a lot from it. And especially with
Yes.
the movie, it's going to go big. I'm sure of
Oh,
that.
yes. I sure hope
And
so.
yeah, I'm rooting for you. And I'm sure our
Thank you.
viewers are too. So, Vernon, I was about to call you Volter. Vernon,
That's okay.
Volter. Vernon, before we wrap up, do you want to tell our viewers anything about you or Volter? Do you have any message?
Well, as you can see, I'm just a normal, everyday guy that grew up in the state of Virginia. If you have a dream, don't let no one stop you from living your dream. Take a step. You never know what can happen. You see what happened to me. I'm here having an interview about my book, potential movie coming out, and just go for it. Don't never stop.
Don't ever stop. Thank you so much, time for your Vernon, and to
Thank you,
everybody
Monica.
watching. Thank you for spending your time with us. Again, check out Vernon's books at vernonlee.com, and all the updates are going to be there. I'm sure you're going to love it. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. You know the drill. If you want to watch more stories and be inspired by authors like Vernon. And until next time, this has been Monica. And don't forget that you are the author and superhero of your own story and you have full control over it.